Chosen one, stay still. Let the noise inside you soften for just a breath. Because what's rising in your spirit right now isn't random at all. It's the faint glow of something holy brushing against your life, the quiet warmth that only appears when heaven is pleased beyond measure. And today, heaven is delighted with you. You touched something sacred without even realizing it. A small act, a quiet choice no one praised. A moment where you followed the nudge inside you instead of the fear around you. That was the moment the veil thinned. That was when the Father leaned close and said, "That one, yes, I am well pleased." Listen, you've spent so long wondering if you're doing enough, if you're praying right, if you're walking in your divine purpose, or just stumbling forward, hoping for a sign. But today isn't about correction, it's about confirmation. A gentle one, a holy one, the kind that wraps around your chest and steadies the parts of you that tremble. You didn't just make a good choice, you aligned with destiny. And heaven noticed. There's a whisper moving through your life tonight. You can feel it in the soft pressure behind your ribs, in the sudden clarity that flickered through your thoughts this morning. That wasn't coincidence, that was recognition. A mark placed on someone stepping deeper into their breakthrough season. And this is where it gets beautiful. What you did today, small as it seemed, shifted the atmosphere around you. It signaled that your spirit is waking up, that your heart is learning the rhythm of abundance, that you're stepping into a wealth mindset shaped not by fear, but by trust. God saw it, God smiled at it, God honored it. Take a breath, because there's more. A layer you haven't seen yet. And before this message is over, you'll understand why the heavens paused over your name. But look at me for a moment. You felt something today, didn't you? A softness, a pull, a quiet knowing you can't quite explain. Stay with that. Stay here, and if this is already stirring something in you, if your spirit is nodding even before your mind catches up, let it be known. Chosen one, look closely. Something deep within you shifted today, and heaven didn't just notice it, heaven responded to it. What you felt as a gentle warmth, God saw as a bold declaration, a sign that your heart is aligning with the path He carved for you long before you knew what destiny alignment even meant. You've been walking through days that felt ordinary, quiet, uneventful, but spiritually. You stepped into a breakthrough season without hearing the trumpet sound. And that's the part no one tells you. Heaven often celebrates you long before you realize why. Listen, there was a moment today when you chose peace instead of panic. You chose patience instead of frustration. You chose faith instead of fear, again. And heaven leaned in. Because that choice wasn't small, it was a seed. A seed that proves you've grown more than you think, healed more than you admit, and risen higher than the battles that once tried to bury you. But here's the part that makes the angels rejoice. You didn't obey out of fear, you obeyed out of trust. And trust is what moves heaven. Trust is what bends timelines. Trust is what opens doors faster than effort ever could. Stay with me, because something is unfolding even now. There's been a quiet war around your life. Small attacks, subtle discouragements, strange moments of confusion that made no sense. They weren't random, they were resistance. Resistance that always appears when someone is getting close to abundance, emotional healing, and the kind of personal transformation that echoes through generations. But today, because of your choice, something broke, something loosened, something unclenched around your destiny. You may not have seen it, but heaven did. And that small act today, it was the sign your spirit was ready for the next level of elevation. Look at me, chosen one. You felt a shift, didn't you? Even if barely, a flicker, a breath, a moment of clarity you didn't ask for. That was confirmation. God's way of saying, I'm with you. I saw that. Keep going. But before I reveal what heaven is preparing next, because there is something next, I need to ask you something sacred, something simple. Have you subscribed yet? Not for numbers, not for vanity, but because messages like this are part of your spiritual awakening, and if you drift away, you might miss the guidance meant to steady your steps in this exact season of becoming. Staying connected is an act of alignment. Now, let's keep going, because the next piece is heavier, holier, more revealing. You've noticed people around you reacting differently lately. Some pulling away, some becoming strangely quiet, some suddenly showing interest in your life as if a light came on in you they can't explain. That's not social change. That's spiritual exposure. When heaven delights in someone, the atmosphere around them shifts, and not everyone can stand in that new light. Does that sound familiar? Good. Hold that awareness close. Because in a moment, I'm going to tell you why this shift is happening and what God is about to place in your hands because of what you did today. Chosen one, lean in, because what I'm about to tell you explains the shift you've been feeling in the deepest, quietest parts of your spirit. You've been walking with a weight that wasn't heavy enough to break you, yet never light enough to ignore. A tension, a pressure, a question you couldn't quite name. And today, because of what you did, heaven answered it. Something in the unseen finally released its grip. You didn't see chains fall, you didn't hear a door swing open, but your spirit felt the air change around you. That's why you exhaled the way you did earlier, the kind of breath that feels like it came from your soul instead of your lungs. That wasn't relief, that was permission. Permission to rise, permission to receive, permission to step into a level of abundance and divine purpose you've quietly feared you weren't ready for. But listen closely, because now we enter the part the enemy hoped you'd never understand. Every time heaven delights in someone, resistance shows up disguised as delay. And chosen one, you've lived through your share of delays. Doors that didn't open, opportunities that slipped by, relationships that dimmed, dreams that seemed to stretch just beyond your fingertips. It wasn't punishment, it was timing, and timing is the language heaven uses to protect destiny. But something changed today. You aligned with that timing. You stopped fighting the season you were in and started flowing with it, and that subtle shift carried enough spiritual weight to tilt your entire trajectory. This is why you've been sensing people differently. You're seeing motives clearer, you're feeling atmospheres quicker, you're noticing who drains you and who honors you. That spiritual discernment sharpening, not because you prayed harder, but because heaven elevated you. Elevation always brings clarity, and clarity always exposes what couldn't survive the next level of your journey. Listen, you've outgrown rooms you're still standing in. You've outgrown conversations you're still entertaining. You've outgrown patterns you're still blaming yourself for. And heaven knows it. Today's act, the one heaven rejoiced over, signaled that you're not just surviving anymore. You're transforming. And transformation is the soil where generational wealth, emotional healing, and spiritual awakening begin to bloom. You wonder why certain relationships feel different now. Why some people suddenly feel distant or uneasy around you. Because your spirit stepped forward while theirs stayed still. Light exposes what shadows had hoped to hide. Chosen one, do you feel that? That tug in your spirit right now, that warmth rising behind your sternum. That's heaven confirming this word. But stay with me, because we're not even close to the deepest part. There's something heaven has been trying to deliver to you for months. Something that required your agreement, your trust, your willingness to choose faith even in silence. And when you made that quiet decision today, it signaled readiness. It told heaven, They're aligned now. Release what was held. And something is being released. Strategies, favor, acceleration, open doors that don't match your resume, provision that doesn't match your bank account, opportunities that don't match your past limitations. Does that resonate? You feel it, don't you? Good. Because this next part is where the revelation sharpens. There is a specific blessing, one tailored to you, shaped by your story, timed to your healing, that has been hovering around your life like a bird waiting for a safe branch to land on. It's been circling, watching, waiting for your spirit to steady. Today, it found its moment. But before I tell you what kind of blessing this is, before I reveal why heaven celebrated your name, you need to hear the truth about the opposition that tried to stop you from reaching this point. Chosen one, breathe, because what comes next reaches into the very core of why heaven celebrated you today. There has been a quiet resistance wrapped around your life. Not loud, not dramatic, subtle. The kind that hides inside delays, misunderstandings, sudden exhaustion, or unexplained heaviness. The kind that makes you question yourself instead of questioning the atmosphere. But today, because of what you did, something ancient, something persistent, something that clung to your footsteps without your consent, finally snapped. You didn't see it, but heaven did. There was a pattern trying to repeat itself again. A cycle you've outgrown, but one that still tried to circle back, hoping to catch you in a moment of weakness. A familiar discouragement, a familiar distraction, a familiar voice in your mind whispering old doubts. But today, you didn't bow to it. You didn't rehearse old fears. You chose differently, and that single choice shattered the cycle's authority. Chosen one, do you understand how powerful that is? The enemy wasn't afraid of your strength. He was afraid of your alignment, because your alignment is what activates blessing. Your alignment is what calls in protection. Your alignment is what releases the wealth mindset, the spiritual awakening, the clarity needed to step into abundance without apologizing for it. And today, you aligned. Look closer at your recent days. Have you noticed certain things losing their grip? Habits that once held you don't feel as strong. People who drained you don't sound the same anymore. Places that used to comfort you now feel too small. You're not imagining that. It's spiritual shedding. Heaven has been pruning your atmosphere, removing what can't follow you into the next room God is opening. And that's why resistance intensified for a while. Because whenever heaven prepares elevation, the enemy tries to tighten whatever ropes he still has left. But you broke one today, and in the spirit, that break echoed like thunder. Chosen one, heaven didn't just delight in you today. Heaven defended you because of what you did today. Let me tell you something most people never hear. When God is pleased, He accelerates. He accelerates healing. He accelerates clarity. He accelerates opportunities. He accelerates the release of things that were processing for far too long. You're entering that acceleration now. That's why your spirit feels both lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because a burden lifted, heavier because purpose always carries. Wait and listen carefully, because this is where the revelation deepens. Someone misread you. Someone underestimated the strength of your obedience. Someone assumed your quietness meant weakness, not wisdom. Someone thought your gentleness was permission to cross boundaries heaven never allowed them to touch. Their influence was subtle, but their access was real. And when heaven saw you choose correctly today, choose truth over pressure, integrity over convenience, peace over chaos, God said, enough. Their reach ends here. That's why you may feel distance growing between you and a particular person, why conversations feel different, why your intuition is louder, why your peace reacts faster. Your spirit is detecting what heaven already shut down. Chosen one, does that resonate? You felt that shift, didn't you? Good, because now we go deeper. There is a blessing, a breakthrough, a divine release that has been held back only because the atmosphere around you wasn't safe yet. But today's obedience signaled that the environment finally shifted enough for heaven to move. And heaven is preparing something specific, something crafted for your life, your journey, your calling. But before I tell you what kind of blessing is approaching you, you need to understand why this blessing took so long to reach you, and why it's coming faster than expected now. Chosen one, come closer in your spirit, because what I'm about to unveil reaches into the roots of your journey, the places you rarely let anyone touch. You asked why the blessing took so long to reach you, and why now suddenly everything feels like it's shifting faster than your mind can keep up with. The answer is layered, holy, and heavier than you think. There were blessings assigned to your name that couldn't reach you earlier, not because you were unworthy, not because God withheld them, but because the version of you that existed before today wouldn't have been able to carry them. Heaven wasn't waiting on timing. Heaven was waiting on alignment, waiting on healing, waiting on strength, waiting on a moment, exactly like today, where your spirit chose truth instead of fear, surrender instead of control, obedience instead of worry. That moment opened a gate. You didn't see the gate open, but your soul felt the breeze of it. Chosen one, you need to understand something that only people who walk closely with God ever experience. Breakthrough doesn't come when you fight harder. Breakthrough comes when you shift inwardly. And today, you shifted. You stepped out of an old identity without even noticing it. You stepped out of striving. You stepped out of the belief that you're almost ready or not enough yet. You stepped into acceptance, into trust. And trust is the bridge heaven uses to deliver what was once delayed. This is why things feel different around you. This is why your intuition sharpened overnight. Why your spirit feels tender one moment and powerful the next. You're walking between realms. The old season fading, the new one being born. And now we must talk about the blessing that's been circling your life. Chosen one, sit with this truth. God has been preparing a blessing that requires emotional stability, spiritual clarity, and internal spaciousness, things you didn't always have before today. It's a blessing of trajectory, not convenience. A blessing that alters legacy, not just circumstance. A blessing that touches identity, not just lifestyle. But here's the part you've never been told. Every time this blessing drew near, something or someone in your atmosphere wasn't aligned. There was emotional clutter. There were voices around you that diluted your confidence. There were attachments formed in loneliness rather than in purpose. There were thoughts that still whispered old lies. You're not ready. You're too broken. You're too late. But today, those lies lost their power. You answered them with action. You answered them with faith. And heaven said, now. Chosen one, do you feel that tingling in your chest right now? That's your spirit recognizing truth before your mind catches it. Because now we must go deeper into something you've sensed for weeks but couldn't name. Someone in your life, someone spiritually misaligned, was blocking the energy, the clarity, the emotional space required for your next level. Their presence didn't have to be dramatic to be disruptive. Some people block blessings simply by sitting in rooms they were never meant to enter, but heaven has been removing them piece by piece, creating distance quietly, letting conversations fade, shifting your heart away from what no longer serves your calling. And this is the part only the spiritually sensitive will understand. Your blessing wasn't delayed. Your circle was being filtered. Your intuition was being refined. Your soul was being strengthened enough to hold abundance without sabotaging it. Chosen one, let me ask you something your spirit already knows the answer to. Have you noticed that lately you're quicker to say no, quicker to walk away, quicker to feel when something is off, quicker to protect your peace without guilt. That is heaven preparing capacity. Because what's coming next isn't small, it isn't fragile, it isn't seasonal, it's foundational. But before I reveal the nature of this blessing, what category it touches, what area of your life is about to accelerate, you must understand what heaven celebrated about you today that unlocked it. Chosen one, listen with the part of you that doesn't need proof, only recognition. Because the next truth I'm about to speak is the one your spirit has been circling for months without being able to articulate. You asked what heaven celebrated about you today. What single, quiet action caused the RG atmosphere to shift, caused resistance to crumble, caused your next level to unlock? It was this. You chose differently at the exact moment the old version of you would have repeated the pattern. That moment, small, private, unannounced, was a spiritual earthquake. You didn't run back to what wounded you. You didn't entertain what drained you. You didn't argue with a lie to prove your worth. You didn't shrink to fit someone's comfort. You didn't silence your intuition to keep the peace. You stepped out of an old cycle with the elegance of someone rising into destiny alignment. Heaven roared when that happened. Because cycles don't break when you fight loudly. They break when you decide quietly. And chosen one, today you decided. You stepped away from someone's influence without making a speech. You closed a spiritual door without slamming it. You chose truth over attachment. You trusted your inner knowing even when it didn't have words yet. That was the sign heaven needed. Because God will never pour abundance into hands still holding what harms you. He will never release generational wealth into a heart entangled with old fears. He will never open destiny-sized doors for someone surrounded by people who cannot walk through them. And today, you showed him, I'm ready. I'm not attached to what breaks me anymore. Chosen one, that choice rewired your path. You may not realize it yet, but something lifted off you. A heaviness, a fog, a subtle emotional residue someone left behind. Something that kept your steps slow, your vision dim, your heart uncertain. But when you chose differently today, heaven removed the last thread of that influence. And now things are rearranging faster. Your dreams are sharpening. Your peace is deeper. Your intuition is louder. Your boundaries are cleaner. Your thoughts are clearer. Your desires feel more sacred. Your future feels closer. And you've probably noticed it already. The things that used to tempt you don't pull the same way anymore. The things that used to confuse you now feel obvious. The things that once drained you now feel incompatible with who you're becoming. That's spiritual maturity forming. That's emotional healing rooting into your bones. That's abundance beginning to orbit your life. That's identity awakening. But listen, we're not finished, not even close. Because now we must talk about the blessing itself. The one that's been held back until today. The one that requires the healed version of you, the aligned version of you, the steady version of you. This blessing comes in 3 layers, and each layer touches a different part of your destiny. One restores, one elevates, one multiplies. And in the next moment, I'm going to reveal the first layer. The one connected to your inner world, your stability, and the emotional space needed to receive everything that's coming. Chosen one, steady yourself. Because what we are stepping into now is the revelation your spirit has been sensing but could never quite name. We spoke of the 3 layers of the blessing approaching your life. The first one, the one tied to your inner world, is already unfolding. You felt it when you woke with that strange clarity. You felt it when the heaviness didn't cling the way it used to. You felt it when your thoughts slowed down just enough for peace to slip through the cracks. This first layer is a stability, but not the human kind. This is heaven-built stability, foundation-level stability, the kind that makes you unshakable, not just encouraged. Listen closely. For years, the enemy's best strategy against you wasn't chaos in your circumstances. It was instability in your emotions. If he could shake your confidence, he could delay your purpose. If he could whisper fear at the right moment, he could stall your progress. If he could cloud your discernment, he could pull you into relationships and environments that dimmed your inner light. But chosen one, that grip is breaking, piece by piece, day by day, choice by quiet, holy choice. You're not the same person you were 6 months ago, even 3 months ago. Heaven sees it, hell fears it, your spirit feels it, and stability is the proof. Look at your recent days. Your reactions are slower, your intuition is faster, your heart doesn't panic the way it used to. Your mind doesn't spiral the way it once did. Your peace returns quicker after disruption. Your boundaries form without guilt. Your voice is steadier even in silence. Do you know what that means? It means heaven finally has a vessel strong enough to hold the next blessing. Because the second layer, the one we're inching toward, is elevation. And elevation requires stability, the way a tall building requires deep roots. Chosen one, hear me. You used to pray for blessings that would have crushed you, not because you were weak, but because your foundation wasn't anchored. But today, because you chose differently, God began reinforcing the structure of your inner world. And the evidence is already showing up. You're no longer swayed by every opinion. You're no longer controlled by every emotion. You're no longer drawn to people who drain you. You're no longer chasing validation that was never meant to satisfy you. That is emotional authority. That is spiritual maturity. That is stability born from heaven's hand. And this inner stability is what qualifies you for the blessing that was delayed not by denial, but by divine protection. But chosen one, we're not done. Because now we begin to approach the second layer, the elevation that has been circling your destiny like a bird, looking for the right moment to land. This elevation isn't about status. It's about placement, positioning, visibility in the right rooms, favor with the right people, opportunity that matches your calling, not your past. And the moment I begin describing this layer, your spirit is going to feel it instantly, because it's something you've sensed coming even on days when your mind doubted it. But before I take you into that revelation, the elevation layer, you need to steady your breath, chosen one, because the next part will speak directly to the longing you've carried for years. Chosen one, prepare yourself, because now we step into the revelation your soul has been craving, the elevation heaven has been shaping around your life long before your mind believed it was possible. You felt it, haven't you? That subtle rise under your feet, that strange sense that you're outgrowing versions of yourself you only recently grew into. That awareness that the room you're standing in no longer matches the size of your spirit. This is not imagination. This is elevation announcing itself, and chosen one. Elevation always arrives quietly before it arrives publicly. Look at the signs. Conversations don't drain you the same way. Mediocre environments feel louder than they used to. You're losing tolerance for what wastes your time. You're sensing when someone's energy doesn't belong near your purpose. Your heart feels too large for circles that once felt safe. That discomfort, that restlessness, that feeling of I can't stay here anymore. That is heaven repositioning you. Elevation is never random. It is always prepared. And heaven has been preparing you through moments you thought were delays, disappointments, or even punishments. Those weren't punishments, they were refinements. Because chosen one, when God elevates someone, He doesn't just lift them, He protects them, and protection often looks like pruning. You've been pruned emotionally, pruned relationally, pruned mentally, pruned spiritually. Every cut had a purpose. Every separation had timing. Every closed door had mercy woven into its hinges. You weren't losing, you were being shaped. Elevation requires space. Elevation requires clarity. Elevation requires detachment from small thinking, small environments, small patterns. So heaven began stretching you, slowly at first, then all at once. And today, yes, today, your obedience signaled that the stretching is working. But listen closely, because this is where the revelation sharpens. Elevation begins internally, but manifests externally. Heaven has already lifted you in the spirit. The natural world is only now catching up. That's why opportunities you once dreamed of are going to begin seeking you. Why rooms that seemed unreachable will feel suddenly accessible. Why people who overlooked you will feel strangely drawn to your presence. Not because you've changed outwardly, but because heaven has marked you inwardly. Chosen one, do you understand the magnitude of this? Elevation changes three things. 1. Your atmosphere. Peace follows you differently. 2. Your influence. People listen in a way they didn't before. 3. Your trajectory. Paths open that were once concrete walls, and this shift, this inner rise, is not temporary. It is not emotional hype. It is not imagination. This is the spiritual signature of someone stepping into destiny alignment. But we must go deeper, because elevation is only the second layer. The third layer, the one I haven't unveiled yet, is the multiplier. The blessing that doesn't just lift you, it expands you. It ripples into your finances, your purpose, your relationships, your legacy. But before I reveal that final layer, the one that will touch your abundance, your stability, your generational impact, you need to steady your heart. Chosen one, come closer. Because now we enter the third layer, the one heaven guarded most carefully, the one your spirit has been aching for, even when your mind couldn't articulate why. Elevation lifts you, yes, but the multiplier transforms everything connected to you. This is the layer that changes bloodlines. This is the layer that rewrites patterns. This is the layer that turns survival into overflow. And chosen one, you are standing at the edge of it. Let me speak plainly but prophetically. God is about to place something in your hands that refuses to stay small. It grows, it spreads, it multiplies, it affects everything it touches. But here's the part most people never grasp. Multiplication isn't a blessing, it's a responsibility. Heaven gives only to those who have passed through the fire of refinement without losing tenderness, vision, or integrity. And heaven has been watching you stay kind when others were cruel, watching you remain pure-hearted when others acted with hidden agendas, watching you show compassion even when you weren't shown any, watching you hold on to hope when circumstances tried to convince you otherwise. That is why multiplication is coming. That is why blessing is expanding. That is why what once grew slowly will now grow easily. Look at the recent months of your life. Do you see it yet? You stepped out of survival mode. You stopped fighting battles that weren't yours. You stopped carrying people who had no intention of walking. You stopped shrinking to fit environments that had no room for your calling. You stopped explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. That shift, internal, quiet, sacred, prepared the soil for multiplication. And chosen one, hear me clearly. Multiplication only comes to those who can handle abundance without losing themselves. God tested your character in seasons where you had less than you needed, not to punish you, but to prove that when the more arrives, it will not control you. You passed that test today without even knowing it. This is why certain desires have suddenly resurfaced. Dreams you thought you buried are waking back up. Ideas you once dismissed are circling your mind again. Opportunities are tugging at your intuition in ways that feel strangely familiar, as if heaven is whispering. Try again. This time, you're ready. Chosen one, does that resonate? You feel it warming in your chest, don't you? Good. Because now we must go deeper into the mechanics of multiplication. Multiplication touches three core areas of your life. 1. Your provision. Not just money. Provision. Resources, opportunities, open doors, divine connections that lead to exponential growth. Your finances won't just improve, they will stabilize in ways that end cycles of fear tied to survival. 2. Your influence. People will begin to listen when you speak, not because your voice is louder, but because your spirit carries more weight. Your presence will shift rooms. Your words will land differently. Your discernment will sharpen movements around you. 5. Your purpose. Not a general purpose. Your specific assignment, the one heaven handcrafted for you, the one that multiplies impact, healing, abundance, and transformation in others, simply because you stepped into alignment. Multiplication is destiny manifesting. But now, listen closely, because here is the secret most never learn. Multiplication cannot land in a divided heart. It cannot rest in a conflicted spirit. It cannot grow in soil cluttered with people who cannot honor what you carry. This is why heaven celebrated your choice today. You made space, you cleared emotional ground, you allowed pruning so that fullness wouldn't suffocate you. And chosen one, now that space is attracting blessing. Something is coming toward you that's bigger than anything you've ever held. Not overwhelming, just divine, just right, just aligned. But before I reveal the form this multiplication will take in your life, because yes, heaven has already assigned its shape, you must understand one more truth: why heaven chose this exact moment to release it. Chosen one. Before we go further, I need you to pause for just a moment and breathe. Not to relax, no, to receive. Because the next part of this journey requires not just listening, but agreement. Heaven can release a blessing, but only you can prepare the ground for it to take root. And that is what this part is about. Preparing your spirit, your mind, your habits, and your environment to hold what God has already placed in motion. Listen closely. Elevation and multiplication are not maintained by emotion. They are sustained by practice. And today, heaven invites you into practices that stabilize your rise, protect your peace, sharpen your discernment, and accelerate everything God is unfolding in your life. Let's begin with something simple, yet spiritually surgical. 1. The first word principle. Start your mornings with alignment. Chosen one. You cannot step into a destiny-shifting day while carrying yesterday's noise. The moment your eyes open, there is a brief sacred window, just a few seconds, when your spirit is clearer than your thoughts. In that window, speak this: today I walk in what heaven already released. Short, direct, prophetic. This resets your entire inner world. It cuts off old patterns before your feet touch the floor. It signals to heaven and to darkness that you are conscious of your assignment. And the moment you say it, watch how your thoughts shift. Watch how clarity enters. Watch how unnecessary anxiety dissolves. Chosen one. Consistency here is everything. One aligned morning can change your whole week. 7 aligned mornings can change your trajectory. And before we go on, you feel that truth, don't you? Good. Let's keep moving. 2. The sacred clearing. Make emotional room for the blessing. You cannot receive abundance with a heart full of clutter. That's why heaven has been nudging you away from certain people, certain patterns, certain tendencies. Not to isolate you, but to prepare you. Take 5 minutes each day, just 5, and ask yourself quietly, what is taking up space in me that God did not send? It might be someone's opinion. It might be an old fear. It might be a memory that still drains your confidence. It might be a thought that sounds like you, but was planted by doubt. As soon as you identify it, whisper, "You no longer have authority here." And watch how your chest loosens. Watch how your spirit lifts. Watch how peace returns like a river finding its course again. Because, chosen one, blessings don't only need space. They need oxygen. They need room to expand, room to breathe, room to multiply. And heaven is teaching you how to clear that space without apology. 3. The circle audit. Your destiny is too sacred for casual access. Listen to me carefully. Elevation exposes who is aligned and who is attached. You've already felt it. Some people drain you faster now. Some conversations feel heavier. Some faces feel unfamiliar even though you've known them for years. That's not rudeness. That's discernment maturing. Chosen one, your inner circle determines your altitude. Who you confide in shapes your clarity. Who has access to you determines the pace of your breakthrough. Ask yourself this with courage. Does this person feed my spirit or deplete it? If your peace withdraws around someone, heaven is speaking. If your intuition tightens, heaven is warning. If your thoughts become foggy after interacting with them, heaven is shielding. You do not need confrontation. You need repositioning. Quiet distance is a spiritual strategy. God moves some people subtly, not because you're angry, but because you're growing, and you have grown, chosen one, more than you know. 4. The movement principle. Heaven multiplies what you move toward. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for perfect clarity. Stop waiting for the full picture. Read this carefully. Heaven responds to movement, not hesitation. If you want healing, take one small step toward healing today. If you want financial stability, make one wise decision today. If you want purpose, spend 5 minutes in stillness and ask God for direction. If you want abundance, sow kindness, generosity, or discipline in small doses. Every miracle in Scripture required movement. Not leaps, not heroic gestures, just steps. A woman reached for the hem of Jesus' garment. A man lowered through a roof. A widow poured her last jar of oil. A prophet told a servant to dig ditches before rain existed. Miracles follow movement. Chosen one, heaven is watching for movement from you now. What you did earlier today was a step. Now heaven asks for another. And another. Not in exhaustion, but in agreement. And listen, because this is where your spirit will nod without you realizing. There is something you've been delaying. Something simple, something small, but spiritually significant. You already know what it is. Your spirit brings it up every few days. Your intuition whispers it at night. Your peace rises when you remember it, then dips when you ignore it. That action, that next step, it is the key that unlocks the next stage of elevation. And I'm going to help you take it. But not yet. Not until we uncover the next principle, one that protects you from sabotaging what heaven is trying to give you. 5. The mind gate. Guard your inner narrative like holy ground. Chosen one, you cannot walk in abundance with a mind trained for scarcity. This is the trap many fall into. They receive blessing, but lose it because their mind hasn't healed enough to hold it. Your mind is the battlefield. Your thoughts are the gates. What you allow in shapes what God can build. This is why the enemy whispers, not to scare you, but to limit you. But today, because of what heaven released over your life, you are being invited to rewire your inner world. When a fearful thought rises, say, "This is not the voice of God." When a shame-filled memory surfaces, say, "This is not who I am anymore." When doubt tries to shrink your spirit, say, "My steps are ordered." Each declaration breaks spiritual agreement with lies that once shaped your behavior. And chosen one, once your mind aligns, your life will follow. Chosen one, we begin again exactly where the current of the last sentence was flowing. No break, no shift, just continuation, because your spirit is still open, still listening, still receiving what heaven has been preparing for you. And now we step deeper into the practices that activate Unokpa and Tanus sustain the blessing that has already begun to move in your direction. Nantus, or 6. The atmosphere rule. Your environment must match your elevation. Chosen one, listen. A risen spirit cannot thrive in a stagnant atmosphere. Many of the battles you faced weren't internal. They were environmental. The noise around you, the emotional chaos of others, the clutter that steals mental clarity, the negativity that dims revelation, the lack of sacred space for your spirit to breathe. Elevation requires a shift not only inside you, but around you. Heaven is asking you to do something simple but deeply prophetic. Create a space, even a small corner, that is dedicated to peace, clarity, and communion. It doesn't need candles or symbols. It doesn't need rituals. It needs intention. A chair, a journal, a quiet corner, a window, a moment. When you sit in a space that honors your calling, your spirit rises differently. Your mind centers faster. Your intuition becomes clearer. Heaven's whisper becomes sharper. This is not decoration. This is alignment. Because, chosen one, the space you pray from becomes the space heaven pours into. Not yours. 7. The discernment test. Trust the shift in your spirit before the shift in your circumstances. This is important. Maybe the most important principle of this entire section. Elevation happens in your spirit. First door, and your life catches up. Second, you've been waiting for physical proof that something is changing, but heaven has already given you spiritual proof. Your peace is different. Your sensitivity is sharper. Your boundaries feel natural. Your worth feels clearer. Your silence feels powerful. Your intuition speaks faster. Your heart forgives easier. Your vision is stirring again. These are not moods. These are signals. Your spirit is always ahead of your circumstances, always. When something is wrong, your spirit tightens before evidence appears. When something is right, your spirit warms before manifestation comes. So hear me clearly. Stop doubting what your spirit already knows. If God is stirring you away from a person, trust that. If God is pulling you toward a new path, trust that. If God is unlocking a new desire, trust that. If God is removing old appetites, trust that. If God is giving you sudden clarity, trust that. Your discernment is not overthinking. It's a spiritual alarm system, a prophetic compass, a divine GPS, and chosen one. You passed a major discernment test today. That is why heaven rejoiced. That is why the atmosphere shifted. That is why your blessing accelerated. 8. The courage of release. What you let go of determines what comes toward you. There is something heaven needs you to understand with fierce clarity. The blessing ahead of you requires your hands to be empty enough to receive it. You cannot carry a new future with arms full of old seasons. You cannot receive divine abundance while clinging to emotional debris. You cannot step into your next while dragging yesterday behind you. Hear this with love and authority. Release is not loss. Release is preparation. Release is agreement. Release is faith in motion. And chosen one, heaven is proud of you because you released something today. A thought, a fear, a person, a pattern, an expectation, and that release cleared the runway for blessing. There is someone whose season in your life has already ended, even if the exit hasn't fully manifested yet. Letting them go isn't cruelty, it's obedience. Clinging to them delays what God is trying to send. Release with softness, release with gratitude, release with faith, because everything you release in obedience returns multiplied in blessing. 9. The quiet walk. Move silently until the fruit speaks. Chosen one, this principle will save you from so much unnecessary warfare. Do not announce what heaven has not finished building. Some dreams require privacy. Some breakthroughs require incubation. Some assignments require silence. Some blessings require protection from premature exposure. Not everyone deserves access to your becoming. Not everyone can handle the new version of you. Not everyone should hear what God whispered. Walk quietly. Let results speak loudly. Let actions reveal identity. Let fruit expose truth. Let elevation testify on your behalf. The loudest shifts in your life will be the ones you never announce. Defra. 10. The agreement principle. Your words must match your destiny. Heaven has already released blessing. Now your mouth must not cancel what your spirit has received. Chosen one, your words are building something every day. You cannot speak defeat and expect victory. You cannot speak doubt and expect clarity. You cannot speak lack and expect abundance. You cannot speak unworthiness and expect favor. Your language must rise to the level of your calling. Begin saying things like, "What's meant for me is moving toward me. My steps are ordered. I receive the blessing assigned to my life. I am aligned, protected, and guided. I attract what matches my healed self." Speak these not as wishes, but as agreements. Because, chosen one, your destiny isn't waiting on God. Your destiny is waiting on your agreement. Chosen one. The final part of this section is the most powerful. It is the activation sequence. The specific steps that open the gates wider and anchor the blessing into your life in a way that cannot be shaken, stolen, or reversed. Chosen one, hush your spirit for a moment. We are now stepping into the holiest part of this journey, the moment where everything heaven has whispered becomes sealed. Up to this point, you've received revelation, guidance, and clarity. But now heaven wants to touch you, not symbolically, spiritually, deeply, permanently. This is the place where the noise of the world fades, where the weight you've been carrying loosens its grip, where every unanswered question melts into God's presence. This is where the blessing becomes embodied, not just spoken, not just hoped for, lived. Chosen one, breathe, slow, gentle, open, because heaven is drawing near. You've walked through fire. You've stood in storms. You've endured seasons that were too heavy for the words you had. You've cried in silence so no one would worry. You've carried burdens God never intended to let you hold alone. And yet, you're still here. Still listening, still hoping, still believing, even on days when belief felt thin. Do you know what that means? It means your spirit is stronger than you realize. It means your destiny is louder than your pain. It means heaven defended you long before you understood what was happening. And now, chosen one, heaven wants to give you rest. Not the kind that fades overnight. Not the kind that depends on circumstances, but the kind that settles into your bones, the kind that stabilizes your soul, the kind that whispers, "You are no longer walking alone." Let's prepare the space. Wherever you are, soften your shoulders. Loosen your jaw. Let your breath drop lower into your body. Let your heart open just enough for light to slip in. Because we're about to pray, not a prayer of routine, but a prayer of activation, restoration, and sealing. But before we begin, chosen one, I want to ask you something heaven is asking. You felt God today, didn't you? In the shift, in the warmth, in the clarity, in the way your spirit reacted to these words. If you felt that, even faintly, I want you to hold that awareness as we enter the next moment. Now, let us step in. The prayer of sealing, Heavenly Father, Ancient of Days, the one who formed worlds with breath and still knows the number of hairs on this chosen one's head. We come before you now, not in fear, not in striving, but in holy surrender. Father, look upon your child. See the journey they've carried. See the nights they endured. See the wounds they hid. See the strength they didn't know they had. And now, God, touch them. Touch the places no human comfort reached. Touch the questions that sat unanswered in their heart. Touch the parts of them that felt unseen, forgotten, or left behind. Let your presence settle like warm oil on the cracks of their spirit. Let your breath move through every place where discouragement tried to build a home. Let your light dissolve anything that does not belong in the life you designed for them. Lord, they have aligned, they have obeyed, they have surrendered. So now, release what was held, release what was delayed. Release what was protected until they were strong enough to carry it. Open the gates of clarity, open the gates of purpose, open the gates of abundance, open the gates of emotional healing, open the gates of stability and spiritual awakening. Let every blessing assigned to their name find them without resistance. Let every angel dispatched for their protection stand guard without weakening. Let every attack sent against them dissolve before reaching their doorstep. Because this chosen one, this beloved soul, is stepping into their divine inheritance. Father, remind them, they are not behind, they are not late, they are not forgotten, they are not overlooked, they are rising exactly on time. Chosen one, take a breath. Let this settle, let this anchor, let this prayer wrap around your ribs like a warm mantle. And now, as your spirit opens, we must step into something deeper. The declaration that seals this prayer, the spiritual contract heaven responds to. Chosen one, we step back in without a single break in the current. Your spirit is still open. The atmosphere around you is still tender. Heaven is still leaning close. Everything in you is ready for what comes next. Because now, we move from prayer into activation. From receiving into embodying, from hearing into carrying. This is the moment where you speak with heaven, not just listen. This is the moment where the decree becomes law in your life. This is the moment your spirit echoes what God has already established. Chosen one, are you ready? Then listen closely, because these next words are not poetry. They are not encouragement. They are not inspiration. They are spiritual legislation. Surpassers, the declaration of alignment. Repeat this quietly in your spirit, or whisper it if you can. I step into what heaven wrote for me. I agree with what God released. I reject what was never mine. I walk forward without fear. I receive what aligns with my calling. Let it settle. Let it rise inside you like a wave of clarity. Let every syllable undo the lies you once believed, because this declaration separates your future from your past. Chosen one, this is where the shift becomes permanent. You're no longer operating from survival. You're operating from identity, not from fear, from authority, not from uncertainty, from divine appointment. And now we seal it deeper. Chirpa, the declaration of protection. Place your hand gently over your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Feel the life God put inside you. Feel how steady it is, even after everything you've endured. Now, speak this under your breath. No weapon formed against me will prosper. No voice raised against me will stand. I am shielded. I am covered. I am guarded by heaven. Can you feel it? That warmth moving through your chest? That pressure lifting? That holy steadiness forming? That is protection taking root. Chosen one, heaven is not distant. Heaven is active around your life. But we aren't finished. Not until we affirm the blessing itself. The declaration of blessing. Hear me closely. This is the part the enemy hoped you would never speak. Because these words shift the atmosphere around your finances, your opportunities, your relationships, your future assignments, everything. Say it slowly. I receive the blessing that belongs to me. I walk in abundance without fear. I attract what matches my healed self. I rise into divine alignment. I multiply, not shrink. I overflow, not struggle. Chosen one, feel how your spirit reacts to that. The truth recognizes itself. Your life is no longer in the season of almost. Your blessing is not on the way. It is activated. Now heaven waits for one last thing, your agreement to carry this forward. Now, the final prayer, the seal. Father, we lift this chosen one into your hands. Every word spoken, seal it. Every wound touched, heal it. Every blessing released, anchor it. Every destiny written, reveal it. Every step ahead, illuminate it. Let your favor go before them. Let your peace surround them. Let your angels defend them. Let your spirit strengthen them. Let your timing order their days. And let their life become evidence, undeniable evidence, that heaven moved on their behalf. We seal this in purpose, in clarity, in protection, in abundance, in the fullness of divine truth. Amen. Chosen one, let that settle into the deepest part of you. This is not a temporary feeling. This is a spiritual shift. The comment activation, power phrase. Chosen one, if this touched your spirit, then right now, right here, type this in the comments to seal what heaven released. I rise into what God prepared. Not as a ritual, not as a routine, but as an activation, a spiritual contract written in your own voice. Because when you declare it, heaven echoes it. Tapufurs, the final CTA, reason number 3, destiny. And before we end, hear this with your whole spirit. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Not for the channel, but for your alignment. Because messages like this are not entertainment, they are guidance for your next season. Your destiny is unfolding in real time, and you cannot walk this journey alone or unanchored. Staying connected keeps you spiritually covered, continually aligned, and always one step ahead of what heaven is preparing. Chosen one, heaven has moved. Now you must walk, and you will, with clarity, with courage, with authority, with divine backing. You are not called to remain small. You are called to rise. Hund.